Hey everybody, welcome back to the SOLIDWORKS electrical implementation video series. This video, we're going to continue talking about some configurations, but more specifically, we're going to talk about our wire styles. Now, the wire styles are project specific. So this again is where your templates will come in very handy so you do not have to recreate these every single time. But for this project, we have some basic wire styles that I have already gone ahead and created. And the way it is organized by group, and then inside of each group you have a smaller group of all the individual wire styles. So in this case here I have my DC group. Some people will choose to organize these based off of gauge. So in the case of this, I have all 20 gauge. I've seen a few folks set these all up based off of completely by gauge, where group 0 would be 14 gauge, group 1 would be 16, and so forth all the way down. And this can be as large or small as you want it to be. But once you define the group, then you can start adding the individual wire styles. And inside of each group, as you can see here, I've got these wire styles. So I'll go ahead and just check one so we can see what kind of information is in here. First, we need to give it a name. What is this going to be used for? I gave it a very generic name. What color do we want it to be displayed on our schematic? What type of line? Formula is a very important one. If we want to do wire numbering, which we'll get to later, is setting up certain values for this particular wire type. So in some industries, we're required to have a W in front of our number. I'm going to make that capital. So in this case here, now when I go to generate that wire number later on, when it's time to add those to my project, it's going to give me W and 01, 02, 03, so on and so forth. Maybe I want it to have a 3-digit number, 001, 002, all the way through. So now I can choose this. Some of these are default reports or default formulas built into the software. But again, if there's options where I want to really create and fine tune the wire, maybe I want the wire number to come from the row number of the title block. Well, you have the ability to do that based off of the book, the information inside that folder or sheet, and so on and so forth. Same thing applies to your wire formula. One thing to note, the equipotential is the flow of electrons. It's going to follow that path, and it's going to give you one number across multiple segments of wire, whereas wire formula is going to give you 001 for segment 1, 002 for segment 2. Even if it's maybe there's a break in the line somewhere, it's going to number every segment no matter what. Moving along into the cabling section here. In this case here, this information is important if you're going to try to one, generate a report. So it will pull information from here and let you know that it's a 20 gauge wire, yellow. In some cases you might want to put a bend radius. For this, because it's only a 20 gauge wire, did not add a bend radius. But if you're working with something that is larger, like a 14 gauge or even double number, you may want to think about putting a bend radius in here. Fiber optic is another one as well. You have the ability to change it from gauge to millimeter squared, depending on what standard you're working with. But more importantly, this information will carry over to the 3D side. So when I do go to route this in 3D, it's going to give me a 20 gauge yellow wire. You also have the ability to add some more technical data, such as your voltage and frequency, a description about what this wire is for. And then you can also customize it like I've done here. And I started adding some information about mode and wavelength for fiber optics, or for RF lines. I have dielectric type and impedance of that. Maybe it's 50 or 75 ohm, depending on what I'm working with. So you have the ability to add and customize your wire types and add specific information for your industry. You do have the ability to change information in multiple wires at the same time. So if you want to, you can select, just go to properties, and then there are certain fields you can't change. Obviously the name you won't be allowed to, but maybe you want the same formula for all the wires. So it's easy just to highlight all of them and change it, and we'll change all of them at the same time. The other option you have is you can find the wire you want and you can copy paste it, and it will essentially copy it and paste it, and you will add and duplicate that, and then just change the duplicate to the new information. Maybe instead of a 12-volt yellow line, you want a 12-volt blue line or something like that. But again, in my case here, I organized it with DC. I have my RF section, fiber, hydraulics, and even pneumatics in here. Nothing says you have to have those. If you don't want a group, then you can simply just go in and you can delete it as necessary. If you decide you want to add a new group, when you add a new group to your wire manager, wire style manager, it's going to simply give you a number scheme, the next available number. You can come in, change the properties, and give it a specific name. The one thing I will note is that if I delete that one wire style out of that group, it also deletes the group. So word of the wise, if you want to keep the group name that you just worked to add a new name to, and you delete that one particular wire style out of it, it's going to delete that as well. So create two wire styles in there and then delete one if you need to. So again, remember that this is a part of the project, not at the application level. So if you decide you want to use these wires for every project going forward, build this wire style list up as best you can. You can always keep adding to it and adding to it later on, but just remember to create a template from it when you're done. That way all of those wire styles are saved and you don't have to think about going back in and adding them again next time. So I hope this helped. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.